Here's the number that should stop every Philadelphia investor in their tracks. In one cluster of South Philly neighborhoods, the median household income didn't just go up over the last decade, it more than doubled from about $47,800 to nearly $97,000. That's not gentrification creeping, that's gentrification in full sprint. And it's happening inside today's zip code 19146. But here's the catch, and this is the same theme of today's whole episode. 19146 is not one market. It's a small zip code that packs in several completely different neighborhoods. Graduate Hospital, Point Breeze, and parts of Grace Ferry. And the rent you can get, the tenant you will attract, and the price you will pay swings dramatically, depends on which block you're standing on. Get it right, and this one is one of the strongest submarkets in the city. Get it wrong, and your numbers fall apart. Let's break it down. Welcome back to the Philly Landlord Guide, a show built for rental owners, property managers, and investors who want real facts about Philadelphia market, neighborhood by neighborhood, no fluff. I'm your host, Yuri Skripnichenko, licensed real estate broker and certified property manager here in the city. Today is another solo episode, and we're going to cover 19146 in South Philadelphia. This is one of the most dynamic zip codes in the entire city, so let's get into it. Quick citywide baseline first, using the July 2026 numbers. Across of Philadelphia, there were 2,300 new units listed and 1,800 units rented in July. The median listed price was $1,850, and the median rented price came in right behind it at $1,822, a tight gap, which continues the trend we've seen in the last couple months. The average days on the market, 47 days, months of supply, 2.4. Total inventory sitting around 4,300 units at month's end. So the city as a whole is balanced, not a landlord's market, not a fire sale, steady. Now let's see how 19146 compares, because it tells a very different and much stronger story. Let me paint the full picture of 19146, because you cannot understand the numbers without understanding the geography. 3 neighborhoods, 1 zip code. It's in the southwest part of central Philadelphia, just below Center City. It contains several distinct neighborhoods, and they are generally different from one another. Graduate Hospital, sometimes called GHO or Southwest Center City, is the northernmost expensive section. It borders Rittenhouse and Fiddler Square, and it has fully arrived. This is a premium neighborhood now, walkable, close to Center City jobs, close to the hospitals and universities. From 2000 to 2021, Graduate Hospital had the highest home sale activity of any neighborhood in the entire city. There were more transactions than there were homes. This is where your highest rents in the zip code live. Point Breeze, the central and southern chunk, is the transformation story in progress. 10 years ago, this was largely a working class neighborhood with a lot of distressed and vacant properties. Today, it's one of the most active new construction markets in the city. Drive down Point Breeze Avenue and you will see brand new constructions, row homes with roof decks and city skyline views, most of them carrying 10-year tax abatements, sitting right next to an old, century-old row homes that haven't been touched. That block by block contrast is the entire investment thesis for this zip code. Grace Ferry, the southern edge along the Schuylkill, is the earlier stage, more affordable section. It's where a lot of value add and first time buyer activity is now, including new construction, marketed specifically as Point Breeze border pricing. If you want in at a lower entry point, this is the part of the zip code to study. According to a 2026 Inquirer analysis of census data, the Graduate Hospital Point Breeze Grace Ferry cluster saw its median household income more than double in a decade, from about $47,800 in the 2010-2014 period to roughly $96,900 in 2020-2024, Over that same stretch, the citywide median only rose from $49,600 to $62,000. So this pocket of South Philly went from below the city average to nearly $35,000 above it. That's an enormous shift, and it's driven largely by an influx of healthcare and educational professionals working at the hospital and universities just to the north and west of the area. Grace Ferry on its own has a population around 22,800 residents with a median age of 36 young working professionals. That's your tenant base in the growth buckets. That income doubling means long-time residents, many of them working class families who've been in these homes for generations, are now under real displacement distress or pressure. Their investment fund flagged that exact cluster as one of the highest displacement risk areas in the city. As a professional operator, you should understand that dynamic. It affects tenants' relations, it affects the politician climate around the landlords, and it's part of, I think, it's part of why the city is pushing so hard on tenants' protection. Being a good, fair landlord in a neighborhood like this isn't just ethics, it's smart long-term business. Here's what's driving a lot of the investor math in 19146, the 10-year tax abatement. A huge share of new construction and gut rehab inventory in Point Breeze and Grace Ferry carries an abatement on the improvement value, which dramatically lowers the housing cost in the early years. That's a real advantage if you're acquiring your product here, but it also means that you need to know exactly how many years left on the abatement before you buy. Because when it burns off, your tax bill will jump up and your cash flow changes. Always verify the remaining abatement term. Now, the July 2026 MLS numbers for 19146. There were 129 units listed and 117 units rented in July, a strong 91% absorption rate. End of the month inventory 191 units. The months of supply is just 1.5, well below the citywide 2.4. That's a generally tight, high demand market. Inventory here moves. Days on the market 42 days, 5 days faster than the citywide average of 47. Now the pricing, and this is where the one zip code, many markets theme shows up hard in the data. The median listed price was $2,345, but the median rented price was $1,900. That's a big gap, about $445. But that gap isn't telling you landlords are overpricing the way it did in 19134 or 19143. It's telling you something different. 19146 has a huge range of product. We've got brand new construction luxury units in Graduate Hospital listing at $2,800 plus, and you've got older row homes in Grace Ferry pockets renting at $1,400. The median list is getting pulled up by the high A and new construction, while the median rented reflects the full mix of what actually leased. The average rented price was $2,268, which confirms there is serious high-end activity here. The lesson in 19146, you absolutely cannot price off the zip code median, a renovated Graduate Hospital unit, and an unupdated Grace Ferry row home are two different businesses. Price your specific block and your specific product. Current August inventory is 187 units at median listed price of $2,000, with the months of supply tightening even further to 1.6. So demand remains strong heading into the late summer. So how do you actually play in 19146? If you already own here, especially if you bought in Point Breeze or Grace Ferry before the last few years, you are sitting on significant appreciation. Know your equity. This might be the candidates for cash out GFI to fund your next acquisition, which is exactly kind of thing we talked about in the recent DSCR Lending episode with Tim. If you're looking to buy in now, understand that Graduate Hospital is largely priced in. The value plays are in Grace Ferry and outer Point Breeze pockets. Ideally, newer construction with abatement time remaining or a solid rehab candidate on a block that's clearly turning. Walk the block, check the Atlas tool at atlas.phila.gov for violations and vacancy on surrounding parcels before you commit. And whatever you do here, price to the actual sub neighborhood, not the zip code average. That is $445 gap between list and rent median exists precisely because people treat 19146 as one number. Don't make that mistake. Quick thank you to our sponsor, Trust Art Realty. In a zip code like 19146, where value swings block by block, pricing your unit correctly is the difference between renting in 42 days and sitting empty forever. Trust Art Realty offers all listeners a free rental analysis so you know exactly what your specific property should command, and a free management consultation if you're ready to hand it to a professional team. Reach out at trustartrealty@philalandlordguy.com or go to trustartrealty.com to schedule that call. To wrap it up, 19146 is one of the strongest, most dynamic zip codes in Philadelphia. Income has doubled, demand is high, inventory moves in 42 days, and the months of supply is one of the tightest in the city. But it's absolutely not one market. Graduate Hospital, Point Breeze, and Grace Ferry are three different worlds, and your pricing, your product, and your tenant profile all have to match the specific block you are on. Know your abatement timelines, know your equity if you already own, and price to the pocket, not the zip code. If this was helpful, subscribe, leave a review, or drop your question for your zip code in the comments. I read them and answer them. Keep your properties clean, stay legal, and I will catch you in the next episode.